Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the Book Snob Tag. So we can all be guilty of holding some snobby views from time to time about our reading and probably about other things in our life, and this tag looks at exploring some of that. So let's jump straight in, shall we? So, Adaptation Snob. Do I always read the book before the movie? Basically no. There are so many book to movie adaptations out there, and there are so many movies that turns out to be book adaptations which I didn't realise before going in. Like, honestly, I think you struggle to find stuff that isn't a book to movie adaptation these days in some ways. So for me, what I really love about movies is there are a whole bunch of genres that I personally wouldn't want to read in book form that I really appreciate on the big screen. So like, I'm a massive fan of rom-coms, but I don't really like reading romance books particularly, and I really do enjoy the trashy teenage like rom-com, the YA novel turned into the big screen, but I'm not a big fan of reading YA. So it's really fun for me to sit down and be able to watch things like P.S. I Love You, To All the Boys I Loved Before, or to The Duff, but I'm never going to actually read those books. So yeah, so I'm not particularly a snob in this area. I don't really mind when it comes to movies and book adaptations, and I don't really mind the direction that I go with them. Format snob. Pick only one format to read for the rest of your life. It would have to be paperback books. I feel like that's probably the most common answer. The space saver in me would want to go for my e-reader, but realistically I find reading like multiple books in a row quite disorientating at times. So, and like, it's just nice to be surrounded by books. Like, I'm a hoarder, I'm okay with that. I consider them part of decoration and part of the kind of the interior design of a room as much as anything else. So yes, it would have to be paperback. Ship snob. Would I be able to date or marry a non-reader? So my very first serious relationship was actually with a non-reader. He was a lovely gentleman by the name of Chris, had absolutely no interest in reading books, and that was completely fine. Like, completely fine. We had other things that we were into together. It wasn't a problem. He read the odd thing here or there. I read like continuously. It really wasn't an issue. We just didn't particularly chat about them. If I had a book that I was really enjoying that I wanted to talk to him about, I would, in the same way that like he was really into video games and that's not something I play. So if he had a video game that he really liked, he would talk with me about it, because you are able to have conversations with your significant other about something that you enjoy that they don't necessarily experience, and that's totally. After that, most of my relationships have been with people who I would consider readers, but even within that, they don't read things that I would necessarily. So like Andy and I, we have very different reading tastes, as a few challenges on my channel have demonstrated semi-recently. We talk about books, but we don't necessarily read the same books. When we do, and when there's like, we're probably more likely to cross over when it comes to non-fiction, and when we do, we sit and chat about them, but we have the ability to also not have to share absolutely everything in our lives, if that makes sense. Genre snob. Ditch one genre. So if I had to ditch one genre, which one would it be? So I'm going to answer this in kind of two ways, because it's very unclear whether it's a genre that you actually currently read or not. So I don't read contemporaries particularly. I read once in a blue moon, so those would be really easy to ditch, just gone. But if it was actually challenging me to ditch something that I read quite regularly, then I would probably go for historical fiction. The reason for this is because I would still be able to read classics, which are set in various different historical time periods. So I think I would still get the benefit of some of the features that I enjoy from historical fiction in that way. Yeah, so I think that would be how I would go about that. Also, because you can probably make some arguments for some, like, the lines of where historical fiction is, you can probably push those a little bit. So I think there'd be a little bit more wiggle room to sneak some things under the covers. Uber genre snob. Pick only one genre to read for the rest of your life. Oh damn, that is hard, because I like to read quite a wide range of things. I'm going to go for the blanket term of fantasy, and then because that covers such a nice big range of things, they include things like magical realism, but then all the way to like high fantasy and stuff like that, I think that's going to give me the kind of breadth that I want. And there are definitely some like speculative fictions that you could kind of consider under that belt, which would be good, and I think a decent amount of dystopian fiction you could potentially count under that belt. I would potentially say dystopian fiction, but I think if I just read dystopian fiction for the rest of my life, I'd like to sit in a corner and cry constantly, because whilst I do love a dystopian book, they are a bit bleak at times, because that's the whole point, it's a dystopian fiction, and I think that would just get really depressing. Community snob. Which community receives the most snobbery in the book community, or which genre? I honestly think that this isn't really an issue much anymore. I feel like there's, because of the internet and because BookTube is so big now, and you know, things like Book Instagram, Book Twitter, book blogs, all that kind of stuff, I do think that this idea that certain books get looked down on anymore just doesn't really quite ring true. I think that there is enough of a pocket of people that will appreciate what you like to read as well, and therefore because of that there's no real point looking outside of that. You know, various, like, some genre fiction always gets a bit of stick from people, but then there's also a lot of snobbery that gets directed to people who read a lot of classics, and it's, you know, oh, you're just reading that because you should read it rather than because you actually enjoy it. Nobody actually enjoys these things, and I really just think, like, if you're reading, you're reading, and that's cool, but there's so many people out here who also are reading that stuff that you're all good. Like, as long as you just hang out with the people who like what you like, you all good. Have you ever been snubbed for something you are reading / reading in general? Generally, no. I can't think of any situation where I've been, like, snubbed or had anything kind of a weird look or anything like that because of what I've been reading. I read in public places all the time. I read whilst walking, and then people get a little bit grumpy about that fact, but then actually it's no different to looking at your phone whilst walking, so I think it's fine. And I've never bumped into anybody because I've been reading and walking. So yeah, so I don't think I have been snubbed in any meaningful way. So that is it. Quite a short book tag. You are more than welcome to do this one as well. Do you have any snobby book beliefs? Are you a format snob or a genre snob? Do you have, or indeed have you had any incidences where people have been snobby to you about what you have been reading? I feel like I've been quite lucky in the fact that that rarely ever happens with me, but I know some people do get that a bit, so yeah. Chuck those all in the comments down below. If you like my content, feel free to subscribe or just watch some more of my videos. I have many of them now. And yes, have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.